And now I'm talking to Mary Sweeney, the gender advisor of Gorta-Self Help Africa. Mary, how's it going? Mary, there's brilliant news in the last few months. Two of Ireland's biggest international development NGOs, or charities as a lot of lay people call them, have merged, Gorta and Self Help Africa. And we're now called, I should say we're now called, because I'm a volunteer with Gorta for the last 10 years, we're now called Gorta-Self Help Africa. And this is great news, isn't it?
You know, it's really very good news, because what we began to see is that we had a very common vision and a very common mission, and both of us worked in the same areas, really around sustainable agriculture, working with women and nutrition, and helping people to be able to market their produce. So the organisations came together and realised that, you know, we could save on costs, come together. Two minds working together often is better than one, and that's what we did. And so it's working very well. We've now merged, and all staff are here in the Gorta in Self Help Africa office down at Parkgate Street, and it's really working very well, and it's working very well in the field. It takes a little bit of time to bring our partners together in the field and to merge it, as I say, in the field. But the very good news is that, as I say, we had a common vision and mission, and that we can cut costs. And the whole idea is that we can reach out to more people and help them get from being subsistence farmers to farmers who are well able to provide for their families.
Yeah, and it's amazing actually, because Gorta is the oldest development NGO in Ireland, and Self Help Africa was set up in 1984. You can tell us about the setting up of Self Help Africa if you want in a minute. But even though Gorta were the oldest in Ireland, Self Help Africa are a bigger organisation. Yes. But Gorta, because it's the oldest, has a more, like, its name is more in the public. So now it's great. We have the best of both worlds, don't we? Yeah, no,
that's you're absolutely right. I mean, the brand name Gorta would be known by an awful lot of people, and they have a lot of people who are committed to Gorta. It's 50 years old, and Self Help Africa is actually 30 years old. And it was actually, I've just come back from Ethiopia, and Self Help Africa originated in Ethiopia after the famine there in 1984, and so it was wonderful for me to have just come back from Ethiopia and to witness the amazing work that Self Help Africa are doing in Ethiopia. For example, now I was in fields of wheat and fields of barley and teff, which they use to make their injera, their own kind of pancake that the subsistence what people eat in Ethiopia. To watch women being so empowered, working alongside their husbands, being able to make decisions around how the income would be used, now in a position to be able to educate their children, look after them medically, and a completely different narrative to what we would have seen in 1984. Really, really powerful.
And do you go often there regularly or often, or just very occasionally?
I go back to the field about 4 times every year. So my lens, of course, would be gender, and trying to make sure 2 key areas that we're working on: equality and empowerment. And what we're trying to do really is create more equal relations between the men and women, because when the men learn to share their power and women learn to claim it, they will be able to make joint decision makings. And all the evidence and research shows that when women can input into decision makings around family affairs, money will be used around health and education and the well-being of the family, more than if it's just men making the decisions. And of course, women are at the centre of nutrition, and for Self Help Africa and Gorta, it's really important that we diversify food, because it's vital that people have the right kind of diet, the right kind of nutrition, the right kind of diversity in their diet, because the countries we're working, there's quite an amount of stunting, and that's really from 0 to 2 years of age, where children haven't been given the right diversity and kinds of food. So we do a lot of work as well around nutrition, and as I say, a lot of work around helping our farmers not to have to sell all their produce at the farm gate where they'll get a small amount of money, but being able to add value to their produce and being able to sell it at a different time in a more diverse markets where they'll get an increased amount of money for their produce, and that will shorten the hunger gap. So we're working in a holistic kind of way around, as I say, sustainable agriculture, food and nutrition, and stroke market and enterprise, with gender very much mainstreamed, and all of it trying to improve the well-being of the family.
What encouraged me, what got me the idea to contact you now is that when you were over there in Ethiopia and Uganda last week, Alison Healy from the Irish Times over there, wasn't he? And she wrote 2 articles in the Irish Times there last Saturday. They were brilliant. You were over there with her, were you?
I happened to be in Ethiopia at exactly the same time, and when Alison was there, and we had one day in the field together, Farmer Field School, where we take farmers out and we show them different trials, looking at how different seeds are used and the yields that come from them, so that farmers can make strategic decisions about the kind of seed that they want. We have early maturing seed, we have drought resistant seed, so we're always trying to increase production and increase yields. And Alison was with us on that day, and it was really inspiring to look at the fields full of wheat and, as I say, barley. And Alison again was there to look at our work and look at the difference between 1984 and 2014. And I think actually that's 30 years on. It was great to be with her, and also to round it off by looking at the kind of work that we're doing around gender as well, which was my focus, and to be able to share that focus with Alison.
I read in Alison's article, I think she quoted you or someone, I'm not sure if it was you, or someone else said that the person was asked, would it be possible for another famine to happen in Ethiopia? And you or the other person said no, because we have the safeguards in operation. Is that true, do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm not God, and I can't say if it's possible or not, but what I would say is that we're doing everything we can to ensure that we mitigate against that ever happening again. And the government, lots of different NGOs, there's lots of different stakeholders, the donors, we're all working to ensure that enough food can be produced in Ethiopia for its people, and in fact that some can be exported. So our sense of it is that it would never ever happen again, and that's, as I say, what we're working towards, and yes, I believe that is the case, but I can't definitively say that it will never again happen. But no, there's a lot of work going on in the whole area of agriculture and agriculture development, climate smart agriculture, sustainable agriculture, looking at smallholders, looking at women and men, and all of this is to mitigate and to ensure that a famine like what happened in 1984 will never again happen in Ethiopia.
And Africa is a huge continent. I think on a lot of the maps we have of the world, Africa is shrunken in size to kind of fit into the space of the map, but it's actually a huge continent, and geographically, and a huge. Could you tell us how many people, or the percentage of people who work on farming in Africa out of the whole continent, like?
Well, you're absolutely right. Africa is absolutely huge, and just to put it in context, you'd fit Ireland, England, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Holland, and Belgium into the Democratic Republic of Congo. That's one country in Africa, and there are 54 countries in Africa, and around 80% of African would be smallholder farmers producing their food from the land. So and from small 2 acres, an acre, 2.5 acres, and they're the farmers that we work with. So it's really, really important to engage this target group to ensure that Africa is in a position to feed its people.
And since the merger with Gorta there a few months ago, Gorta-Self Help Africa now, we're actually one of the biggest development NGOs in Europe, aren't we, that work on the focus on agriculture in Africa?
Yeah, that's right, because different organisations have different competencies and different areas of working, and ours is around the whole area of, as I say, sustainable agriculture, food and nutrition, and enterprise. And we would be, when you just look at that particular niche, Gorta-Self Help Africa would be one of the biggest international NGOs in Europe working in this particular area with this particular field of expertise.
I think what we're doing is our trade name in Ireland is Gorta-Self Help Africa, but in Africa we're Self Help Africa, aren't we? Is that the way it is? I think.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because Self Help Africa are registered in the countries that we're working in as Self Help Africa, and there's quite a lot of bureaucracy in just going around and changing names and all of that. So the board, in their wisdoms, decided, the joint boards of Gorta and Self Help Africa decided that in Ireland we will be known as Gorta-Self Help Africa, and in Africa we will be known as Self Help Africa. That's correct.
I think Self Help Africa is a great name, because that's what we want to encourage people to help themselves. And I mean, I think it's just so positive. Like, it has a great, it's so simple. It has a great ring to it, and I think that's a great idea to keep the name Self Help Africa in Africa. Like, and I mean, just to finish up, Mary, as we were saying there, like, Gorta-Self Help Africa are one of the biggest development NGOs in Europe that work in Africa on agriculture. How many people are we helping, or target of people are we helping every year, do you know?
Well, I mean, it varies in different countries. We have different sizes of programs, but in all, and over the next year, we'd be hoping that directly and indirectly we could be benefiting around 3 million smallholder farmers. So that's quite a substantial number of farmers for an organisation of our size. And I do agree with you in relation to the name. What I would like to say is that some of the most entrepreneurial people I've ever met in my life are the African people. They are very hardworking. They're very an amazing spirit, and once they get the knowledge, and it is really all about knowledge is power, and once they understand better and improved ways of increasing their yield and production on their farms, they really do adopt and engage. And I find it inspiring to listen to them, to work with them, to work alongside them. We accompany people, they're agents of change themselves, and we simply accompany them in that process, and we are, as I say, building up self-reliance.
Yeah, and just to finish up, Mary, I'm not sure if you know much about the internal Ireland side of it, like, but we have great news. Like, Gorta had, I think it was 2 shops in Dublin that sell second-hand clothes and that kind of stuff, and we have another one in Dublin now, don't we, in Phibsborough, and another one in Galway.
That's right.
They only opened recently, isn't it?
That's right. So we have 11 shops, and now with 2 new ones, so now we have 13. So we've Galway, Cork, Limerick, Laois, Kildare and Dublin, and that's really great, because it's a real way where people can come and meet us, talk to the staff, know about the kind of work that we do, hand over their second-hand clothes in the very generous spirit that the Irish people have. And with that, then we can use the money from that to roll out the programs that we're rolling out in, with seeds, with credit and savings, with gender programs, with nutrition, all of the work that we do in Africa. And those shops are really a very, very powerful way for us to be able to get income to do the work that we do in the field.
And it's Christmas time now, pretty much. We're in the last week of November. We have Christmas gifts again, we don't we?
Yeah, there's a variety in the catalogue. If you can see it on our web, there's a variety of gifts that will be on that at different prices, and it really is a very useful tool for us to be able to fundraise around the Christmas time. We know the Christmas spirit, and it's about giving gifts to our family, to our friends, and it is great to have that global sense of solidarity, wanting to give to others who have less than we have, and to give a hand up, not a hand out, but a hand up. And that's really what it's about. It's accompanying people in their journey when we see those living on €1 a day, and just helping to get them to a place where they can increase that so that they can live a life of dignity and well-being. And that's really our mission and purpose.
Okay, Mary, thanks very much. I'll be talking to you again at some stage as well, right?
Thank you very much, Darren.